There is no official data for how many ships have sunk on the Great Lakes, but it is believed that about 6,000 to 10,000 ships have perished in the Great Lakes. Among them, Lake Michigan is believed to hold the highest number of wrecks, and that's just the estimated number that we know of. Planes, small boats, and countless other vessels were not accounted for. So why are there so many shipwrecks in Lake Michigan? Could there be an unseen force beneath that is pulling ships to their doom? With ship after ship lost to the depths, the mystery only deepens. Yet the answers remain elusive. What truly lies beneath the surface? And most chilling of all, why is no one investigating, and why is nothing being done about it? Because as we speak, thousands of lives are at stake. In May 2019, pilot Randall Dippold and passenger Emmanuel Z. E.Z. Manos, president of the Detroit Salt Company, were on a routine journey from Monroe to the Upper Peninsula when their engine failed. The United States Coast Guard was promptly contacted and immediately started the hunt for the plane. However, rescuers could not find any trace of the ship. What was more strange was that the plane's emergency locator transmitter did not activate. It was concluded after an intense search that no one survived. Lake Michigan has once again claimed another life. The disappearances and deaths in Lake Michigan are so many and strange that people are starting to think that maybe there's something sinister going on in Lake Michigan, giving it its name, the Lake Michigan Triangle. The Lake Michigan Triangle is an area of Lake Michigan where several disappearances, shipwrecks, and plane crashes are said to have occurred under mysterious circumstances. The triangle extends from Ludington to Manitowoc, then to Benton Harbor, and back to Ludington. The first known incident in Lake Michigan was the Lake Griffin. On September 18, 1679, the sailing ship Le Griffin and its crew were lost. Le Griffin docked at Le Grand Bay, now Green Bay, loaded 12,000 pounds of fur, and made sail for Lake Erie. However, the ship never arrived at its destination, and no definite remnants of the ship have ever been found. The Rosabelle was a two-masted schooner that transported supplies to the House of David in Benton Harbor. Between 1875 and 1926, she was discovered capsized twice in Lake Michigan, with no trace of her crew. In October 1921, the ship was fixed and was ready to depart again, with a cargo of potatoes and maple lumber. However, Ed Johnson, the ship's captain, refused to board the schooner. Johnson's son later claimed that he had a premonition that a disaster was about to strike, but no one believed him. The crew failed to persuade Johnson to board the Rosabelle, so they left without him. Days later, the ship was discovered capsized again, with no sign of its crew. Ed Johnson was right. The lack of debris and the eerie emptiness of the wreck fueled speculation and added to the lore. But the next incident was more bizarre than this. George R. Donner was the captain of the O.M. McFarland, a coal freighter. On April 28, 1937, Donner's 58th birthday, the ship took up 9,800 tons of coal in Erie, Pennsylvania, before traveling west via the lakes to Port Washington, Wisconsin. When they reached Lake Michigan, Donner retreated to his stateroom, telling the crew to notify him when the ship approached her destination. 3 hours later, as the ship approached Port Washington, the second mate went to Donner's stateroom, but discovered that it was locked from the inside. Assuming Donner had gone to the galley for a snack, he headed there, but couldn't find Donner. The crew subsequently launched a massive search for their commander, but it proved unsuccessful. They eventually busted down the cabin door, as that was the only place left to search, but he was not there. Now, Donner was too big to fit through the 2 portholes in his room, so it made people wonder what happened. Local ports and ships looked for Donner in the water, but he was never found. It was like he simply just disappeared. More recently was the case of Don Shaler and Don Rodriguez. On July 3, 1998, Donald Shaler piloted a two-seat Aero L-39 Albatross, a high-performance single-engine aircraft commonly used as a military trainer in Eastern European countries. Shaler, a seasoned pilot, had planned to perform in his first air show during the National Cherry Festival in Traverse City, Michigan. Donovan Rodriguez, who has taught aviation at Northwestern Michigan College since the 1970s, sat in the passenger seat. Shaler radioed at 6 p.m. that he was 27 miles from Cherry Capital Airport, from which he had taken off, and that he intended to return. Shortly afterward, the flight controllers noticed that the plane had vanished from the radar, and they were unable to communicate with Shaler. Coast Guard helicopters promptly began scanning the area, but they found nothing. The next day, a Canadian freight jet and the Blue Angels C-130 Fat Albert joined the hunt. Despite scouring miles of land and water, nothing was found, and the search ended on July 9th. Till today, no one knows what caused the disappearance. The weather was calm that day, both men were competent pilots, and the aircraft was regarded as basic and dependable. The plane reportedly had parachutes and ejection seats, yet both were not used. So what happened? These are but a few cases and reasons why people think something is definitely wrong with Lake Michigan. Ships and planes are not safe. If one isn't careful, they could go missing forever. And by the way, that wasn't the only plane that went missing. In such, there was a more devastating accident that occurred. At the time, Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501 was the most deadly commercial airplane crash in American history. The crash claimed the lives of all 58 individuals aboard. On June 23, 1950, the fated aircraft took off from New York City's LaGuardia Airport, heading for a layover in Minneapolis. The flight took off at 8:35 p.m. ET, and it did not take long for things to get choppy. The pilot requested a 4,000-foot reduction from the flight's planned cruising altitude of 6,000 feet as he approached a storm. He was first denied due to other flight activity in the region. However, by the time the jet arrived in Cleveland at 10:49 p.m., he had been granted permission. The pilot radioed in again at 11:51 p.m. ET, while flying above Battle Creek, estimating that they would arrive in Milwaukee in about 45 minutes. A few minutes later, as they approached the lakefront above Glen Township, some 10 miles north of South Haven, the pilot sent his final signal, requesting a descent to 2,500 feet. He never explained why, and sadly, he was never heard from again. It took less than an hour for flight personnel to notice something was wrong. Flight 2501 was radio silent, and the pilots did not contact their next checkpoint in Milwaukee. By 1 a.m. Eastern Time, 80 minutes before Flight 2501 was scheduled to arrive in Minneapolis, Northwest Airlines had contacted Michigan State Police about a suspected collision. They couldn't confirm anything for several more hours, not until daybreak when they were sure the plane would have been fully depleted of fuel. Right then, they knew in their gut that it was all over. There are so many cases that I could actually make an hour-long video talking about them, and I still wouldn't be able to cover them all. The crazy thing is that I could choose to start as recently as 1990 and still have enough reports to show that a lot of people have died in Lake Michigan, which begs to question, what exactly is happening in Lake Michigan? Well, some people have answers to that will blow your mind. Good luck is science not yet classified, just as the supernatural is the natural not yet understood. That is a quote from American Albert Green Hubbard. The world is governed by forces we don't yet understand. One of those forces that could be the cause of these disappearances at Lake Michigan is called an energy vortex. Some people attribute the issue with the Lake Michigan triangle to a negative energy vortex. Energy vortexes stem from the belief that particular locations emit sacred, potent, and transformative energy. Although vortexes are commonly thought to bring happiness and healing, it has been reported that negative energy vortexes exist. These locales are allegedly dangerous and malevolent. Ley lines are frequently cited as the source of energy vortices, and they usually intersect with old structures and monuments. In some ways, ley lines are similar to latitudinal and longitudinal lines. They are not visible in the real world. However, the belief is that major sites such as Stonehenge or the pyramids of Giza are all linked by a sort of energy highway that connects them. The concept gained traction in the 1920s when Alfred Watkins, a photographer and amateur archaeologist, spotted straight lines connecting ancient sites in specific parts of the United Kingdom. Watkins believed the lines were not random. He believed the forefathers or ancestors built major landmarks in a purposeful, linear arrangement over the British countryside to aid navigation. It might sound gibberish, but it makes a bit of sense. For example, the Inca Empire was divided by ritual roads known as Sikhs, which radiated out from the capital, Cusco, and reached as far as the kingdom's outskirts. Along these straight lines, this pre-Hispanic society put ceremonial markers known as wakas, and it is unclear why they did so or how they established the trajectory of each Sikh. In China, the ancient art of feng shui was developed as a means of arranging landscape features to ensure a harmonious flow of the universal energy called qi. So it turns out that this theory was already practiced by different, diverse cultures all over the world. And this was in an era when Duolingo or Google Translate didn't exist. Some critics say it's nothing more than just a coincidence, but you gotta admit, that's an awful lot of coincidence, considering it sort of matches almost all ancient monuments and structures. And according to ley line maps, it turns out that one just so happens to pass across the center of Lake Michigan. You see, one characteristic of a ley line is that it can lead to probably negative energy vortices, which can lead to weird weather phenomena that can't be explained. And Lake Michigan is a hub for strange, unpredictable weather. One minute it's all bright and sunny, and suddenly you see a 3-foot wave coming at you out of nowhere with no warning whatsoever. People who live close to Lake Michigan can testify to this. So with this theory, some people think this could be the answer. Now, you might say that's all good and an intriguing story at best, but where is the proof? Where are the images? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because we got proof this time. A proof in the form of a Stonehenge remnant found at the bottom of Lake Michigan. This discovery means that there is a ley line in Lake Michigan, which means there is a possible energy vortex, and most importantly, means that the crazy ones were right all along. In 2007, Mark Hawley, a professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern Michigan University, discovered something unexpected on the seabed of Lake Michigan while hunting for shipwrecks. He and his team uncovered a line of stones set in a style similar to Stonehenge in approximately 40 feet of water. Immediately, they sent divers to photograph the region and discovered what appeared to be a prehistoric engraving of a mastodon dating back more than 12,000 years. Similar to Stonehenge, there is little explanation for the perfectly set underwater stones, what they represent, or who placed them there. And even 17 years later, with all the sophistication and improvement in our technology, no one can say exactly what these stones are. This area is open to the scientific community, by the way. They can go check it out, and they have. but they haven't really given us a satisfying reason why something like that would be at the bottom of Lake Michigan. Now, aside from this theory of energy vortexes, there is also the theory that it could be alien. Some claim to have experienced paranormal activity over the waters of Lake Michigan. Witnesses have noticed strange occurrences happening over the water. On some occasions, seeing dazzling flashing lights over the lake that come from the water before going up to the sky, or in some cases, from the sky into the water. Basically, yes, UFOs are being said to be the cause of disappearances, with the first reported UFO sighting in Michigan being in 1913. In fact, Michigan is one of the top areas in the country for UFO sightings, and Lake Michigan alone has seen its fair share. In addition to disappearances, the Lake Michigan Triangle has received several accounts of strange flying and submerged objects, also known as UFOs and USOs. In such, around the time Flight 2501 vanished, there were claims of UFO sightings and odd lights in the sky. In 2024, satellite images revealed a peculiar ring of warm water in southern Lake Michigan. This event piqued the interest of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration experts, who attributed it to light breezes beneath the center of high pressure, allowing the ocean surface to warm more quickly. And of course, critics can't say aliens don't exist anymore. I mean, the United States government has officially come out to acknowledge that UFOs exist. And that wasn't the only revelation. They also revealed that they had been working behind the scenes to contain, control, alter, and in extreme cases, delete or remove any narrative that didn't sit well with them. We now have proof of well-funded, top-secret organizations and projects being carried out by the government, like Project Blue Book or the AATIP, to monitor all things alien. By the way, all these were functioning behind the scenes as they claimed that UFOs didn't exist, as well as there being no task forces set up to monitor UFO activities. They called people crazy and sponsored big house media to discredit and tarnish the image and narrative of anyone with credible information. One thing I find myself saying is that whatever the government tells you is already a heavily watered down version of the truth. Basically, not the entire truth. So yes, they admit to UFOs, but if they could admit to UFO existence, something that huge that they actively denied for almost a century, it makes me wonder what massive, life-changing truth they are currently hiding. Now that I've explored one side of the coin, I think it's only fair I explored the other side. Spoiler alert, you might not like what I'm about to say, but like they say, the truth hurts. For starters, many of the shipwrecks and disappearances in Lake Michigan can be attributed to logical and mundane things like rogue waves. You see, because of the lake's extended shape and location, its sides are parallel and unobstructed, allowing harmful currents to emerge, such as riptides and longshore tides. Furthermore, the north-south direction, combined with regular wind patterns, allows waves to reach incredible heights. Many scientists believe that the disappearances in the Lake Michigan Triangle were caused by rogue waves and abrupt weather shifts. What most people don't know is that Lake Michigan is notorious for its unpredictable weather, where tranquil waters can swiftly turn furious. Rogue waves that are abnormally huge and unexpected have been reported in the Great Lakes and have the potential to capsize smaller vessels. Waves on Lake Michigan often reach 20 feet. These are significantly steeper and more deadly than a 20-foot rolling ocean wave. Boats can easily roll over, and if hatches are left open, waves can overwhelm the boat. The frightening part is that they can appear out of nowhere. One moment the weather is perfect and the sun is shining, and the next you're in the midst of a severe storm. A rogue wave was responsible for the sinking of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald on Lake Superior. Additionally, sudden squalls or the formation of dense fog can confuse even expert pilots and sailors, leading to disastrous results. In such, people have shared their own experiences on how unpredictable the weather can be, and I'm pretty sure if you scroll through the comments in this video, you will see someone also comment the same thing. Another prominent explanation for disappearances is magnetic anomalies generated by magnetic declination and deviation. Magnetic declination is the difference between true north and magnetic north, which varies according to location. And on average, Lake Michigan deviates 4 to 5 degrees west. Magnetic deviations, on the other hand, are mistakes in compasses caused by local magnetic fields. For example, if you hold a compass near a magnetic item, the needle will point to the object rather than magnetic north. Although this would not be an issue in vehicles equipped with additional navigational devices, it could cause confusion for unskilled sailors and pilots, leading to a crash. And back then, technology had not advanced to the point of having an accurate, pinpoint navigational system. And contrary to popular belief, while Lake Michigan is thought to contain the most wrecks among the Great Lakes, it does not have the highest density of them. That is the purview of Lake Erie. Basically, the accidents, deaths, and disappearances are at normal levels. Saying Lake Michigan is weird because of some accidents is like saying roads are bad because of accidents. Even dangerous roads that claim lives more than the ocean are seen as normal because we understand what makes the road dangerous. But because we don't necessarily understand what makes Lake Michigan dangerous, we tag a supernatural reason to it. I mean, take Flight 2051 again. What is usually left out in this story, like I did intentionally, was that the weather that day was extremely bad before they took off. In such, the pilots had concerns about the severe weather, and they chose another flight path designed to avoid the severe weather conditions, but projections underestimated the size of the storm forming in the Midwest. Some parts of the plane, as well as the deceased, were found the next day, but not all. And for bodies that were not found, or ships not found in Lake Michigan, I have this to say. You literally have no idea how large Lake Michigan is until you visit there. People severely misunderstand the size of the Great Lakes. They're gigantic. Lake Michigan measures approximately 100 miles wide, 300 miles long, and hundreds of feet deep. That is the size of Maryland, Delaware, and Massachusetts combined. It is the second largest of the Great Lakes by volume and the third largest by surface area. It has been utilized for shipping and marine transportation for as long as humans have lived in the area, and the Lake Michigan Triangle conveniently encompasses a heavily traveled section of the lake. So when someone crashes into the lake, it should be more of a miracle that their remains were found, and not vice versa. I think the name Lake confuses people to think that it is nothing serious. In such, I think there should be a petition to change the name from Lake Michigan to Michigan Sea, so people don't make costly mistakes based on assumptions. And as for the strange Stonehenge found, well, yes, it was found, but it's not exactly what you think. There is no Stonehenge linked with the site, and the individual stones are modest in comparison to what most people consider Stonehenge. It should be noted that this is not a megalith site like the Stonehenge. This label was placed on it by the press, who were seeking to generate buzz about the story or for clickbait reasons. This finding near Grand Traverse Bay is best described as a long line of stones that extends over a mile. That is not to take away from the impressive find or what it seems to represent, but at the same time, we shouldn't exaggerate or embellish things more than what they actually are. It's just like the Bermuda Triangle or the Alaska Triangle once again. At first it looks like something supernatural, but once you sit down to reason the events, you start to see that it's just a normal thing. But normal boring things don't sell, so writers have to add a little tale to make the story worth reading. I always use the Bermuda Triangle as a wonderful case study. The idea that there was a stretch of sea where mysterious things happened was picked up by authors of UFO books, such as Morris K. Jessup, Charles Berlitz, and Donald Keyhole. These authors, and others like them, continued exaggerating and distorting the level of mystery associated with the disappearances. And even when proof of normalcy was established, like dangerous storms or even reappearance, the authors will never retract their works or correct their mistakes. For example, Charles Berlitz, the author of the book Bermuda Triangle and the one who made that place famous, found out that one plane he claimed suddenly to have disappeared in 1937 had in fact crashed off Daytona Beach, Florida, in front of hundreds of witnesses. But did he correct his mistake? No, he didn't. Now, I'm not saying all things are explainable, or saying all events are natural. If there is one thing I know, it's that we still don't know anything about our planet and the universe at large. That being said, when it comes to things like this, the Lake Michigan story, I have to say it's just a normal, unfortunate event. That's all. It's not glamorous or riveting, but it is the truth. Just like the horrifying experiments done in Plum Island by a government that was supposed to protect you. Instead, they poisoned your food and killed a lot of people, all in the name of biological warfare. You can find out more about it in this video.